Hey y'all, it's Dr. Andrea Moore. I'm a board certified OBGYN and I'm certified in obesity medicine, but I'm coming to you today for a Better Way MD TV because I am also a certified weight loss coach and I'm on a 60-week mission to help you lose weight. This is week 17. To recap week 16, it was about spiraling off your plan, whether it's for a day or for a week, or like most of us do through the holiday season, or what I like to call the holla month. So that was week 16. Week 17, we're going to talk about what I call the death spiral. Now, look, I am Southern, so I believe in God, I believe in my country, and hyperbole. So it's really not a death spiral per se, but it's what it feels like when you've recognized that that's what's been going on. And quite simply, it's just that you have regained a lot of weight that you'd already lost, and you kind of just given up on yourself and your plan. That's the death spiral. So I'm going to tell you about the two different types. I'm going to tell you how to recognize it, some steps to get out of the spiral, and also how to prevent it. So the first thing I want to put in your brain, though, is that the death spiral is really not a death spiral. That sounds like it's happening to us, but remember, everything we do or don't do is driven by something that we feel and something that our brain has thought. And so we make a conscious decision not to follow our plan, or we even make a conscious decision to gain weight. So keep that in the back of your mind when you're thinking about the spiral. So let me tell you about the two types of spiraling that I see most commonly. The first is what I call the Insidious Slide. And it's basically where you just kind of stop doing all the things. So, and it's gradual and you don't even know that you're really doing it, but it's something like you stop writing down your food, you stop planning your food, you stop writing in your journal about your thoughts, you stop weighing, you stop basically doing all the things, but it's done at such a slow rate, you don't even know it until you start to gain weight, either by noticing it on the scale, or maybe even you physically, your clothes get tight and you just don't feel as good as you did before. So that's the Insidious Slide, and it's happened to probably all of us. And sometimes I find that that's the harder one to deal with because you basically just ease on into your old habits. And the feelings that I find that typically drive the slide are things like boredom about the plan, or maybe you've gotten busy all of a sudden so you don't feel like you have time to do your plan, or you just get complacent about it, like, I got this, I know what to do. Be aware that those feelings are what creates the momentum to not do anything. So you've got to be looking out for thoughts that make you have negative thoughts about your plan, or that you're too busy or whatever. And just for note, you are never too busy to plan your food. Okay, never. So that can't be an excuse. Now let's talk about the type 2. And that's what I call the catastrophe and crisis spiral. And it's typically preceded by a major life event, like a death in the family, a job loss or a change in income, maybe personal illness, or, God forbid, a worldwide pandemic. So I think we all experienced a little bit of catastrophe and crisis weight gain during the most recent pandemic. And I'm going to tell you a little tale about myself because I did this too. So at the start of the pandemic in March of 2019, I was feeling overwhelmed, and I was trying to decide if my primary OBGYN practice could survive and stay open. What should I do with my secondary business, my weight loss business? How was I going to pay my employees? How was I going to keep my employees safe? Was I going to stay safe? Was anybody in my family going to get sick and die? And thinking along those lines, I really created a crisis in my head. And the thought that really follows that is, I'm in survival mode. I'm going to do what it takes to survive. Now, interestingly, my brain always offers me food. Like, that's a good idea. And I can actually remember when I started the crisis eating. There was a bag of Dove chocolate on my where I was working. It wasn't my desk, but I was working somewhere else. And I remember actually consciously saying to myself, you know what? I'm going to eat that chocolate because it's going to make me feel better in this moment. And it does. And that's why we go back to it. But if you really challenge yourself, you're not making your life easier by eating foods that have flour and sugar or eating off plan. In fact, you're creating more stress for yourself because when you eat flour, and especially when you eat sugar, you're causing your body to experience a lot of oxidative stress, which is not good. So you're really not giving yourself anything. You're not giving yourself time or energy or reprieve or any of those things. All you're doing is consciously deciding not to follow your plan because you want to feel better in the moment. All right, so the way to get out of this spiral is obviously to recognize it. And I really recommend that you, whatever you do, always weigh, or if you don't weigh every day, judge kind of how your clothes fit, because you need a canary in the coal mine. And for me, the scale is one canary. The other is that I stopped drinking water, which is really a weird thing. Again, if I'm in survival mode, why am I not at least drinking water and eating nourishing food? Because that's what my brain gives me. So in the case of the pandemic, I was really spiraling into this. I'm going to lose my practice. I'm not going to have any money. I'm going to end up homeless. So therefore, eating a bag of Dove chocolate is going to solve that? No, of course it's not. So once you recognize it, really get down to, why do you think that you need to use food to solve a problem? And what is that problem? And why is food going to solve that? And you'll quickly find that the food is not going to solve the problem. And then sometimes I think it's a good idea, especially in the Insidious Slide, to do the 5 whys. Like, why am I consciously choosing not to do my plan? Why? Answer 5 whys, and usually you'll get your answer about what you want, and whether it's maybe you feel like you're overwhelmed and don't have time to do a plan. Why do you feel like that? My boss gave me more work. Why did your boss give me more work? I have somebody out on maternity leave. Why do you have someone out on maternity leave? Because she was pregnant and going to have a baby. Okay, so because I have an employee that's out on maternity leave, I think that I need to not follow my plan. Again, there is a disconnect, but that's what our brains like to do. They like to disconnect that conscious thinking from the unconscious thinking. So once you decide that eating off of your plan is not going to solve your crisis, then I want you actually not to do anything. I want you to think 3 things, and I want you to write these down. Okay, number 1, you always know how to lose weight, because your brain's going to be like, see, this didn't work. You don't know what you're doing. You're never going to get this. No, you always know how to lose weight. The second thing I want you to remember is that the only way you fail is to quit. So never quit. And then the final thing I want you to think is the spiral is not inevitable and it's not permanent. So with those 3 thoughts, then I think you can create a plan to get out of the spiral. And you can do one of 2 things. You can either go all in, create your thoughts that will allow you to go all in and do all the things you know how to do. Or, especially in the case of the Insidious Slide, I think sometimes this works better. Figure out what time frame it took you to get from doing all the things to doing none of the things. And let's say it took you 6 months. Then divide that in half, 3 months, and decide that you're going to give yourself 3 months to get back to doing it. Make a list, and it's a short list. It really is. No flour, no sugar, eat 3 meals a day, plan your food, write out your food, write your journal, weigh yourself. 6 things. And then give yourself 2 weeks to add each one of those things. What is the thing that you can do today? And how can you make sure you'll do it every single day from this point forward? And every 2 weeks you add a new thing until you're doing it. And then you're back on plan. Easy peasy. The problem is that we want our weight loss gone immediately. That's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. But you do want to get back on plan, because if you don't get on plan, you really will never lose your weight. And we're not going to have you quit, and we're not going to have you fail, and we're not going to make that spiral permanent. All right. So how do we prevent this? You prevent it by, again, knowing what your canary in the coal mines are. So what's the first thing you give up when you're busy? For me, it's drinking water. So drinking water is always my day-to-day canary. Like if I get to the end of the day and I'm like, ugh, I only had 3 glasses of water today, and I drank 18 cups of coffee, I know then no matter what I do the next day, I have to make sure that I get my water in. I have to do it. That's like, if I do nothing else, I have to get my water in. The other canary in the coal mine for me is not writing in my journal. So not writing out the food, because my brain is like, if it's not on paper, it didn't happen. So if it's not on paper, I followed my plan, which is total crap. I know that. You know that. But that's the way our brains act. So when I don't write my food down and I don't drink my water, I know that that's where I need to start being really conscious about what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, why I'm creating thoughts that are keeping me from following my plan. And then finally, when my clients get to their goal weight or near the goal weight, we create what's called a control action panic plan, or CAP plan. And it's basically where we set up weights that create a different action. So I usually give my clients 2 to 3 pounds at their control weight, that as long as they're lower than that, they're good. They can continue doing what they're doing. But if they go up so many pounds, that's their action plan. And that's when they need to start doing the work. Start asking the 5 whys, or what problem are we trying to get food to solve? And then finally, the panic. And that's usually somewhere between 5 and 10% of your beginning body weight. So let's say you start out at 150 pounds at your goal weight. And that means that 10% of that is 15 pounds and 5% is 7.5. So you want to make sure that you never get above that 10%, and that 7.5, that 5% is where your panic weight is. And by panic, I mean, don't call 911, but call a friend, call your coach, call your physician, call somebody to give you some help to really look into your brain. And that's when a coach can be invaluable. Like, so many times I'm like, why am I doing this? And my coach is like, okay, let's look at your brain. And then you figure it out and you're like, oh yes, eating the bag of Dove chocolates is not going to keep me from dying or being homeless during the pandemic. So if you're in the death spiral, remember, it's not permanent. You only fail when you quit, and you're not going to quit. And you will always know how to lose weight. All right. That's what I got for you this week. Take care. Next week, we are going to actually start talking about easy versus hard, and how to make this work easier than what you're making it right now. Because if it's easy, it's easy.